Senator Warner, I'm going to kick it over to David in a second, but and I know he has a lot of questions he wants to ask you about elections and tech and lots of other things. You and I have been lucky enough to be in various forums talking about innovation, how this country can keep its edge in innovation and really compete in the technology race with China without shooting ourselves in the foot, so to speak. So if at some point in the session, the two of you could get to that topic, I would really appreciate it. With that, I'll hand it over to David.
I would love to.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anya.
Well, thanks, Anya. We will not miss that. Trust me. We plan to cover it. It's great to be back with Senator Warner, a friend, an occasional sparring partner, a book critic. You know, I've gotten some of the most interesting critiques of what I've written from Senator Warner along the way, and I would say one of the most knowledgeable, if not the most knowledgeable person on these subjects in the halls of the Senate today. So I'm delighted you're joining us from your kitchen, and even more delighted that you're not repeating the tuna melt experiment.
Don't try that. Don't try that at home. It's dangerous to your health.
So let me start, Senator, with a topic right on the news, which is TikTok. So we went in the space of a few days from the president saying he would ban TikTok to the president getting a call from the CEO of Microsoft and agreeing that he would let Microsoft buy TikTok, assuming that they paid the U.S. Treasury, which I haven't quite figured out yet, but we'll get to that in due course. And now some question about where this whole transaction is. But before we get to the actual transaction, as you and I have discussed, the TikTok problem is a very different problem than, say, the Huawei problem. I know they all get lumped together, but I think that it might be a really good way to start the conversation. If you could just lay out how you see the TikTok issue and how it differs from the challenge we face from a country trying to build our infrastructure the way China is hoping to do through Huawei.
Well, great question, David. And again, I think it shows a little bit of the haphazardness of this administration. Is TikTok a problem? Yes. But on the hierarchy of problems, we're talking about an app that allows you to make funny videos that potentially the Chinese are taking that information and storing it or retaining it back in China. And they may be limiting the ability to critique the Chinese government on TikTok. So should we be concerned if you're a member of our military or IC, if you have TikTok on one of your devices? Yes, we should be concerned. But that is a completely different scale of problem than Huawei, where if you did an overview of where Huawei equipment has been sold into the United States, oftentimes to smaller telcos, because it is sold at a very attractive price point. You'll see where Huawei equipment is sold and where our nuclear missiles and missile systems is almost a complete overlay. And when you're talking about your telecommunications system, that is an issue of concern of much, much greater national security interest than TikTok. Yet the president has taken more drastic action and a more drastic threat against TikTok than he's ever taken against Huawei. And my fear is, and then this kind of absurd comment that somehow he's going to decree that if this deal takes place, the U.S. Treasury is going to get a cut if Microsoft buys. And I do think, if Microsoft makes this acquisition, I have more faith in Microsoft's both maturity and willingness to try to bring a sophisticated approach to how they could separate some of the source code from, to draw out those distinctions than other companies. But I fear at times when the president kind of haphazardly, bings around on whatever happens to be the flashy object of the day, that this lack of a sophisticated approach, in a sense, gives fodder to other countries like India and Brazil and others who are going to suddenly say, well, if America is taking out TikTok, we can preclude Facebook or Google, or we can go after the American tech platform companies. So I think we have to have a more thoughtful approach. I think we need to be very clear when we call out a company, why we feel it is a security concern. And this brings me back memories of years ago, how long it took us to deal with the Russian antivirus company that was embedded in so much of our American.
You're talking about Kaspersky.
Pardon me?
You're talking about Kaspersky.
Yes, Kaspersky, it took us years to get Kaspersky Labs off of the GSA acquisition list. That was a serious problem. Huawei building out 5G or dominating the worldwide 5G market is a serious problem. TikTok, yes, a problem, but not nearly of the same degree and magnitude as what your basic telecommunications hardware system is going to look like.
If I was to summarize your position here, Kaspersky was a problem because it's a antivirus program that's embedded in all of your computers and thus sees the traffic. And and I've written about the fact that we believe the Russians actually got a hold of some NSA documentation after it ran through a computer that had Kaspersky software on it, and Russian intelligence saw it and grabbed it. Huawei is a problem because they're literally building the U.S. infrastructure, could turn it on and off in times of conflict at the worst issue. TikTok, only a problem to your mind if it's sitting on the phones of somebody who's working in the military, the IC, your own phone, you wouldn't keep it on there. But fundamentally, you don't consider dance videos to be at the high end of American concerns.
Right. Absolutely, David. And what we have to be careful is if we cry wolf too often, the rest of the world is not going to accept American credibility when we have to actually call out a bad actor. I do think, we've started to make started to have some success with Huawei. It has been a long road. It has been, I think, lack of having a national policy for some time. But we are, I think, starting to see some, turning the corner on Huawei. If we were to, and from the president's language, he's even used at times stronger language against TikTok than he has against Huawei. To me, that is not a strategically smart choice.
Senator, I hope I'm not departing from my repertorial even-handedness here when I say that I think it is a grateful nation that you are not regularly a TikTok user. I haven't heard the demand for the Mark Warner TikTok dance.
Yeah, I know you don't. You somehow may be saying that you don't think I may be a style setter in my dance, just as I was not a style setter in my culinary skills.
All looking for the Warner TikTok dance.
That's it. Anya, I was actually looking forward to you asking the last question here because I know we're running out of time.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, David, for masterful moderating, as you always do. Senator Warner, thank you for all those fantastic questions. I have to tell you, jokingly, on this one, I hope we do ban TikTok because I will have my preteens back. Totally addicted. So one last question for you, because you touched on it briefly, talking with how do we coordinate better with India, with Japan, with South Korea on all of these important technology issues. Last night, our last session was with Audrey Tang, who's the digital minister of Taiwan. And she's wonderful, of course. She's using humor to push back on the disinformation that the Chinese are putting out in their election system. She's gotten the social media companies to be much tougher and do no micro-targeting of political or issue ads before elections. They're just doing all of the things that our nation hasn't been able to. Is it time to A, learn from other countries, and B, coordinate some of these technologies, policies with them, and how would you do that?
One, I think it is time for us to learn from other countries. I mean, I think one of the things I raised with the administration recently is, let's learn from Sweden. Let's learn from the Baltic nations, who the way they counter Russian disinformation is they educate their population so that when Russians are spreading stories about Ukraine or whatever, you know, the population knows, well, that's just another Russian disinformation campaign. We have not done that in any kind of sophisticated way in this country. And I think we can learn from other nations, number one. Number two, I do think we need, you know, the country, the world yearns for a return of American leadership. We sometimes fumble around a little bit, but for the most part, the world thinks, you know, we are based on a rule of law, that we do represent our set of values. And I think that leadership, the loss of that leadership, and with this kind of America first approach that this White House has, I think if we do change the White House, there would be a real welcoming of a chance to build new alliances around these technology areas. And I do think it's going to require increased investment at the governmental level. And where I'm happy, or where I'm pleased there, is I'm seeing at least on the Senate side, a broad bipartisan consensus that is going to require public-private alliances, whether it be semiconductors, 5G, AI, quantum, you name what are the cutting-edge technologies. And I think so many of my colleagues recognize that we're going to have to do that in concert with both with other nations, and it is going to take more than the private sector. Now we simply have to get some of the appropriators to agree to put the kind of dollars in that we need, but I remain very hopeful on that notion of both American leadership and collaboration with that coalition of the willing around the world.
Thank you.